next speaker is Honorable Captain Commander Retired Paul Beersman. Dr. Beersman, would you please share your thoughts with us?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the members of our association here, General and Lady Van Kalster and Dr. Borio, who are also interested in this subject, so I thank them that they are here also assisting at this conference. So, I'm the president of the Belgian Association for Solidarity with Jammu and Kashmir, and I was 1 year United Nations observer in Kashmir, on both sides of the line of control. I think I'm one of the rare human specimens on this earth who has visited both sides of the line of control so extensively. So, and I also published a book, but it's in Dutch, Jammu and Kashmir, The Disputed Paradise is the title. So, having said that, Gilgit Baltistan is a part of Jammu and Kashmir and of the problem of Jammu and Kashmir, the so-called disputed area between India and Pakistan. And of course, the solution of the Kashmir issue is essential. First of all, we have to stop the suffering of the Kashmiris, and with the Kashmiris I don't only mean the people of the valley, of the Kashmir valley, but the whole of Jammu and Kashmir, including Gilgit Baltistan as a Kashmir, the valley, Jammu province, Ladakh, and then what is a question mark, what about excising and the territory under Chinese control? So we must also give them back their dignity. We must give the youth the occasion to grow up in the normal circumstances. So violence started in 89, 90, and so now we are more than 20 years later, and the generation that is living now in Kashmir, in Jammu and Kashmir, they, especially in the valley, they only have seen violence, which was not the case when I was observer. It was in 78, 79. There was peace all over. There were hundreds of thousands of tourists, Gora tourists, so that means Western tourists, bringing a lot of money, bringing a lot of jobs. And now that is finished. It's only in Ladakh that the Western tourists are going. But so the youth that is growing up, especially in the valley, they only have seen violence, people killed, widows, orphans, security forces there. And that resulted, as we have seen in 2008, with the Amarnath issue, with the big problems, and then the fall of the government of Ghulam Nabi Azad. Then in 2009 we have seen the Shopian tragedy, where 2 young ladies were killed, and nobody still up to date, nobody knows who has done it. In the last year it was the stone pelting session. So wherever you went, you were attacked by stone pelters. I witnessed myself, I was there, so I was also under attack of the stone pelters. So we wonder what will happen this year. We hope that the youth will understand that that is not the way to proceed. So we must give them the occasion to grow up in normal circumstances. Also, there must be a solution to revive the economy. We must also find a solution to give the Kashmiris a future, be it on the Indian side or on the Pakistani side. We must also ease the situation in the region of Jammu and Kashmir in order to allow the Kashmiris to move freely around. Now there are 2 points of the line of control where they can cross, but nevertheless it's very difficult to go from Muzaffarabad to Srinagar or vice versa, or from Punch to Rawalakot. It's still a big problem. So that should be, and it's all has been already said, to allow inter-people contact from the both sides of the line of control. The third reason, of course, is to improve the relations between India and Pakistan, to stop the waste of money, energy and resources. Normal relations between India and Pakistan will end the arms race and be of the benefit for the population of the two countries. Now Pakistan is saying that they need this huge army because of their enemy, India. So once there is peace, they have to reduce their army. And that's, of course, there are vested interests not to do so. Myself, I'm an officer of the Belgian army, and when I was serving, we had an army of 110,000 military people, and now it has been reduced since the Soviet Union and the Cold War is over. It's reduced to 30,000 people. So we lost our, so to say, our power. It's the army we had at that time. If I'm armored corps, so from the tanks. At that time we had 600 tanks. Now we have 30 tanks left. So that's the result. But it's a good evolution. We shouldn't keep it just for the sake of having. And of course, also an important reason is to improve the situation in South Asia, and then to allow the SAARC to function normally, because now the SAARC is bound by the dispute between India and Pakistan, and it's not moving forward like it should be. And then of course we can't forget, but that's an argument that is used very often, but it is still there. India and Pakistan are nuclear powers, and who knows what will happen with these arms, especially in Pakistan, if the situation turns wrong and these arms get in the wrong hands, then it can be a disaster. Then of course, how can we solve the problem? And then we have to say there are a lot of suggestions to make, but there are a lot of problems that make it difficult to have a solution for this problem. So first of all, there is the illiteracy and the lack of education, which makes the population vulnerable to all kinds of influences and manipulations. The rumor mill is very important and a dangerous weapon. I witnessed that myself. So the rumor mill, whenever something happens, when I was in the valley especially, and now especially with mobile phone, it can spread around just like that. In a few seconds the situation can turn from peaceful to a war-like situation. I was in 2008 with my wife in a shop at Nagin Lake, close to the Azratal shrine, and the rumor mill said that the security forces had killed some boy, and straight away all the shops had to be closed. And we were sitting in a shop, carpet shop, and looking to shawls and Kashmiri carpets, etc. And at once there came a mob with motorcycles, with 20 young boys with sticks. They entered the shop, they threw down everything, they started beating everyone, because the shop didn't close, but he didn't know, the shopkeeper didn't know that what was going on. So, I mean, just to give the example how dangerous this rumor mill, and now with the mobile phone disease. Then there is of course also the weak economic situation and the huge problem of unemployment. But we have also unemployment here. So, but we don't take the weapon for that. So, but nevertheless, it is a huge problem. Parents are giving a good education, try to give a good education to their children, and when they have finished their studies, then they don't find a job. So that's a very dangerous situation. Then, of course, we know there is corruption, there is abuse of power. There is favoritism. When I have written my book, I studied and I've read a lot of books. And already in 1886, so we go almost 200 years back, it was already written. The resident in Kashmir wrote to London that the corrupt people had to be changed and replaced by honorable and trustworthy people. So, and now we are almost 200 years later, and still corruption is there, abuse of power is there, favoritism is there. Those who are in power are doing it, and those who are not in power are blaming them, and once they come in power, they do just exactly the same. So it's a vicious circle. Then other problems are to find the solution is the vested interests, especially of the political leaders and the military, like I said already. Then there is a lack of readiness to compromise. For India, Jammu and Kashmir is integral part of India. For Pakistan, Pakistan is not complete without Jammu and Kashmir. So if they can't compromise on that, then you can't find a solution. Then there are so many differences. There are cultural differences, there are religious differences, there are linguistical, there are 14 languages spoken in Jammu and Kashmir. All this makes it very difficult to find a compromise and to have contact. So when I go I'm going again now in June, July, and I have my family I know since '78, and my driver is a Muslim, he's a Sunni Muslim from Nagin Lake, so Srinagar. I knew him when he was a young boy, 8 years in '78, now he's growing up, he has a family. So he comes to pick me up in Jammu, and Jammu is Hindu majority. He doesn't feel home. He doesn't know what is happening with all these Hindu goddesses and etc. So there is no contact. Then in Srinagar, of course, in the valley, he's home, it is home, he speaks Kashmiri, but when he drives into Kargil today, in Kargil he doesn't feel home because they are Shia Muslims. Then he comes in Leh is Buddhist, but he doesn't feel home. So there is no contact, there is this diversity in Jammu and Kashmir. Then there is also intolerance. There is the difficult internal situation exploited by intervention from abroad. Weapons are brought in from across the border. And
Valuable comments there. My next, like Andrew, very important.
In what is said and done, everyone preaches peace and there is violence all over. Everyone preaches tolerance and mutual respect, and there is intolerance and extremism all over. There is destruction of private property, of schools, of bridges, of official buildings. Moderate Muslims and Pandits had to flee the valley to save their lives, and nobody can give the guarantee that they can return to their place of birth. Then, of course, there is also everyone. I don't think, it comes there, okay. This is only a small list of problems and complications that make it difficult to solve the Kashmir issue. This list is not complete and many other aspects can be added. We leave it to those who know the situation better than we do to complete this list. And now the answer on what we suggest to immediate steps to be initiated for the solution of Kashmir. And my friend Afzal has already indicated some of these arguments. It is clear that a lot of goodwill is needed. It is clear that the gun and violence can't bring a solution. The gun and the fear for the gun must be taken away. As long as the gun culture is there, no room for negotiations is there. There should be more confidence-building measures. So it's not enough to open a few roads and to open trade. Step by step, all parties must show their willingness for peace. They should be consistent in their declarations and activities. So when I meet Mirwais in Srinagar, he always says, we want peace, but at the same time, he promotes the stone felting, he protected, he said, that's the only way we can use, and he also promotes the use of violence. He said, that's the only way we have, so that's not the way to do it. There should be a dialogue on 3 levels, bilateral between India and Pakistan, in order to find a solution for the areas under their administration. Kashmiris should be a part in this dialogue. Also to improve the relations between the 2 countries, because we have seen since the Mumbai attacks that there are big problems to have good relations. Then there must be also a dialogue on the national level between India and Jammu and Kashmir, and between Pakistan and Azad Kashmir and Gilgit Baltistan, in order to decide on their relations and the level of autonomy to be granted. There must be also a dialogue on the internal level in Jammu and Kashmir state, on the Indian side, between the 3 regions, Jammu province, the Kashmir Valley and Ladakh. And then, like I said already, India and Pakistan should give up their uncompromising stand on Jammu and Kashmir. History has its own dynamics and borders can be changed. They should accept that there are more than two options. More options than accession to India or accession to Pakistan. There could be independence, there could be partition, there could be joint management or whatsoever. Everyone must realize that reaching a solution will take time, a lot of time. And then we come to the point of the Kashmiris themselves. They say we must be represented in the negotiations. And then is the question, who will represent the Kashmiris? When I was there again for the first time in '94, I met Yasin Malik. And he said, I represent the majority of the Kashmiris. Okay, that was the first one I met, so that was possible. Then I met Shabir Shah, and he said, I represent the majority of the Kashmiris. I said, okay, 50-50, that's possible. Then I met Gilani, and he said, I represent the majority of the Kashmiris. And then I said to Gilani, that's impossible. You can't represent with three the majority of the people. So that is one of the problems. And the more political, and these are only the separatist leaders. There is Hashim Qureshi, there are so many others. When you go in Srinagar, in a circle of 200 meters, you find 35 party headquarters in Rajbagh. So you can take a picture. I did it, I went around, and there are 35 parties there. So that is one of the problems. And then all of them, they say we must unite, we must cooperate, we must sit together and form one front. And then I said, and who will be the leader? I asked Shabir Shah, and then he said, yeah, I will be the leader, of course. So I came to the conclusion that every Kashmiri is a political party. And that makes it very difficult to find a solution. Nevertheless, let us hope that positive steps will soon lead to a lasting solution so that the people of Jammu and Kashmir, wherever they live, whatever they believe, can have a normal life in dignity and happiness without having to fear to be killed or prosecuted. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Beersman. Your presentation was very expansive, and it'll take a little bit to recap everything, but I'll try to do my best. You talked about human rights violations in Indian Kashmir and on the Pakistani side, as well as in Gilgit Baltistan. And you tried to convey the message that oppression is not the way, and the local people have to be given a chance to find a peaceful solution. There are about 40,000 Pakistani troops and paramilitary in Gilgit Baltistan, and their number is increasing with every passing day, and it's a waste of money, as you said, time and energy. And it's becoming even more alarming because there are like regular search operations in Gilgit Baltistan where they arrest about 10 to 12 on average youngsters every other day, and they take it to the interrogation centers, they beat them, they subject them to torture, and it's all done in the name of maintaining law and order. And as you mentioned about stone pelting, which is going on in Indian Kashmir, in January there was stone pelting in Gilgit, although the international community doesn't know. But the women of Gilgit Baltistan, they came on the street and they pelted stone at Pakistani security forces. So it shows that the situation in Pakistani side is very bad. Unfortunately, there is not any the lack of presence of media is what it's like, leading to lack of awareness among the international community about the situation there. You talked about continuation of the process, so situation could evolve and people could sit together, and opening of the border. Maybe if SARC is a functional organization, then maybe we the South Asians can move together towards a future union, like a European Union of the 7 or 8 countries in South Asia, and that could be a solution for economic and political problems. And then there were some interesting points that he made, which are like Kashmir issue has become an industry, it's a business. Everybody's making money out of Kashmir issue, so there's no interest among the people to solve it, because that's how they make money. Especially, you know, the military benefits a lot from status quo. And you also talked about proxy representation. It's a problem where the local people are not represented by the by their own representatives.